many people talk about how nice it is to be a software engineer, like you make good money and you have these offices with free food and a day in the life of a software engineer. What they don't talk about, it's about the ugly side of things. And so today, together with Bogdan, we want to talk about the actual reality of the job, not the frappuccino, not the hipster glasses, not the New York City lifestyle, but the actual real life stuff that developers have to deal with on a daily basis that nobody wants to talk about. If you don't know us, my name is Dragoș. This is Bogdan. He's my brother and co-founder, together as a senior dev. So, Bogdan, what's the first harsh reality developers have to deal with?
So, number one, without any further ado, it's competition anxiety.
What does competition anxiety mean?
Well, the number one thing that happens when you're a developer is that you see all this, you see the boot camps, you see a lot of people getting into the field, and it very much feels like there is someone pretty much everywhere with remote work going for your job. So you live with this constant fear of, am I going to still be relevant in 2 years? Are they going to hire someone with a lower salary? Because again, there's all the boot camps are pushing people, there's all this online course movement, and there's the CS graduates, plus the people that are already in the field. And so it feels like you're constantly competing against everybody else. Because again, in the industry, everything moves so fast. So you're always feeling that it's someone that will take your job.
Yes, Bogdan, there's a lot of competition anxiety. And I talk to developers on a daily basis, on the phone, on calls. And what I see is that layoffs, like the recent layoffs that happened in 2022, 2023, 2024, we're moving into 2025 and companies are still laying off software engineers. Then there was AI coming in and putting more anxiety, more pressure on developers like, hey, we will, automate your job altogether. And I think a lot of people are a lot of developers are trying to suck it up, but there is so much there's so much pressure on the average developer. Like basically, if you are out of a job, and you go to LinkedIn and you see a developer job and you see 500 applicants, right? And that's kind of reality that people have to deal with. The Google jobs, the Netflix jobs, all those fancy jobs, the reality is they are hyper competitive. I think Google was hiring like 0.02% or something like that of everybody that applied. I think it was easier to get into Howard University than to get into Google. Many times as a software engineer, you feel like there's always someone smarter than you and you feel like expendable. You feel like, they can get rid of you and find someone better tomorrow, right? And this is also fueled by all these, Udemy courses and boot camps promising people, you're going to be a developer in 8 weeks, we're going to make you a software engineer that can make 100K. And this never really stopped. I mean, we thought it's going to stop because of layoffs and everything. No, this is the same messaging developers see. And I think this is something that you really struggle with. I remember back in my developer days, I had a lot of, competition anxiety. You go to meetups and you don't talk to people, not because you're an introvert, but because you think everybody's so much better than you. And, just by talking with them, that reality, you're going to have a conversation with them. They're going to know so much more than you. And, you're going to have to suck it up.
The problem with competition anxiety is that it also affects your confidence and job security. Because if you don't have job security, because you feel like someone else, there's so many people that are so good, maybe you don't find something in 3 years. Especially as an adult, you might get commitments, you might have a family, you might have a mortgage. And it's extremely hard for people to just relax because they feel like they have no safety or they cannot provide that safety for themselves first and maybe for others. Because it's always like, am I going to have a job? Am I going to be good enough to be hireable 3 years from now, 5 years from now, which is not a long time. We got into this to build a long life career. Maybe you want to be into this 40 years and this is your life code. This is, the way you pay your bills. And I think that's such a fear that you wake up to every day.
And now that we're here, some tips to deal with competition anxiety. It's number one to understand this comes from a kind of a scarcity mindset where you think, wow, there are like this little number of jobs and everybody's going for them and everybody's smarter than me. And it also comes from social media, right? Where again, you see all these people talking about the stuff they know. You see maybe some of your friends getting promoted. You feel like you're falling behind. You have to understand it's all an illusion. You have to look at all the good things you do on a daily basis. You have to look at the value you add, and you have to understand it doesn't really matter. There are plenty of good companies out there, right? And there are plenty of jobs. And as long as you are able to deliver value, as long as you are able with your coding skills to get something from requirement to production, right? As long as that's the truth, right? And this is what we advise people. When you feel like you're in a storm, when you feel like you're feeling very anxious, you think nothing works, remember, if you're able to write code, if you're able to solve problems, you will always have a job in any economy, in any world. AI, it's not gonna solve that. AI is more of an assistant, but it cannot lead, right? The problem solving process. So just remember, as long as you can solve problems with code, you will have a job, and forget about this competition anxiety because it's all in your mind.
Yes, and remember, try to do anything today where you don't interact with the software system. Like try to, I don't know, buy something, try to talk to your friends. Everything runs with software. So trust me, you will never run out of work. And the better you are at it, the more value you add. Huh? Try to do, this is something I used to call myself, just try to do anything that without touching a piece of software. Like you go into your car, there's software in. You go to, I don't know, McDonald's to get
to get some cash. There is software. You go buy something. There is software everywhere. Yeah.
You want to cross the street and the traffic light runs on software.
Exactly. Bogdan, on to point number 2.
Number 2, it's taken for granted.
And Bogdan, I think you can talk a lot about this because, I mean, you've been taken for granted more than once. But I think what we refer with this is that as a software engineer, you work very hard and you can put hours and hours and weekends into something to just see it, thrown away without any feelings. And it's not that you feel expendable, like they can get rid of you. It's that your work, it's also expendable. And if there are problems, developers are gonna solve it. Don't worry, the IT guys and girls, whatever, are gonna figure it out, right? So there is this general feeling, and I remember from my writing code years, like there is little empathy. There is little empathy for the developer, right? Developers pay the price for the sales, for the management teams over-promising, right? And we are kind of, all the work ends up on your desk. And when everything goes well, they close the deal because the salespeople, right? We get little visibility for all the stuff that kind of enable the deal. Can you, Bogdan, what can you say about being taken for granted?
Well, I mean, exactly what you said. So I used to work in this company where we were building software for small businesses, and every time they would close a big deal, there would be a parade of the salespeople out telling how they did the deal. But to be honest, as a developer, you'd grind out code, we would put out amazing features, and the moment you finish the feature, they'd come on and ask for work, or even worse, you had bugs in it. So you would feel like you're just treadmilling, your work is not really visible, and the salespeople or even product would make such a big deal about this deal they closed and how they did this and ABC, and they'd have bonuses. As a developer, you would sometimes pull all-nighters and you wake up next day to more work, and there'll be incidents, and they'd ask for features that are so exciting. And when they build these features, it wouldn't be because you crunch your neurons to really pull this thing through. It would be because the sales or product had this crazy idea, and that's what actually broke it. And the actual work to make that crazy idea reality, all the mini problems you had to solve, the thousands of things you had to deal with to just make it visible, they would ignore it. They'd be like, oh yeah, now it's on the screen and now I can do ABC with it. And they'll just put you more work. So it would be extremely hard. And I remember like they would close a big sale or give bonuses to salespeople. I would have to, write down everything I did and make my work visible and sit down with my manager, explain why I want a $500 rate.
Yeah, and there's also the visionary founder idea where, especially in startups, there is the founder or co-founder who had the vision and kind of all the merit goes to them. They're the ones visible. But then there's a team of hundreds of people that made everything possible. And one thing I want to talk about here, it's about the invisible work, right? The problems that we prevented. Because people see the problems you solve as software engineers, but they don't see, like you mentioned, all the micro decisions and all the little problems that you avoided happening, right? And this is something that we need to live, and we need to suck it up, which is why we advise everybody, and specifically like the students we work with, but every developer, to really ask for the money. Don't be afraid to ask to be paid, because after, that's the most merit you're going to get. I mean, you might get some applause in a demo, or when you're going to present your stuff, but you're not going to get a lot beyond that. And this is why you have to make sure that you get paid fairly and that you get paid well for the job you're making, because there are no bonuses for developers. There are no end of quarter performance bonus like salespeople have.
Exactly. You solve a lot of problems that are not even visible. You solve a lot of problems that you can't explain. And a lot of times you don't get work, you don't get paid for problems you avoid. So if you design a system in a better way, maybe that, maybe your immediate work, like your manager, your boss might understand that. Sometimes they don't even understand it. So you need to put a lot of work into making that visible, because if you don't, nobody knows about it. It's very easy to show as a salesperson that I closed, these 5 people this week, but it's extremely hard as a developer to show why I've been working on accessibility or security or scalability for the last 5 days, or why I've been moving or removing technical debt so we can actually extend the system 3 months from now. Like, first of all, most people don't even think like that. They don't even understand why you're doing this. And maybe someone takes that piece of code and they add a new feature to it, and they did it so fast because you left it in a very good state. So there's so much invisible, there's so much unknown, and that's why you need to make an extra effort to show what you're doing, to show your value, and get paid.
This is one of the things that we work a lot with our mentees, especially in their CVs, but not only that, in their interviews that they're making. It's to put an extra effort in quantifying and showing the impact of the work you've done. And I know a lot of people talk about this, but in the end, this is not about the number of features you ship, but this is a mindset. Right? Understand that, especially if you want to get to senior dev, it's not only about what you do and what you know, but it's about who knows about what you do and what you know. Right? It's 50% doing the job, 50% selling it. And if you ignore the selling part, because I know we tend to ignore it as software engineers, because we are very analytical, and we like to look at the face value as like, hey, what is this? Don't come to me with sales, but you cannot ignore that you are operating in a political organization. Any company, it's a political group, right? And part of that, it's the impression that people have about you. Now, I'm not saying you should become a political animal. That's not what we indicate, right? We do exactly the opposite of the senior dev. We teach people how to improve their technical skills first, but you need to be both a salesperson, a politician, and a producer. 50-50. You need both. If not, you're going to be the talented person that has a desk in a corner nobody knows about. They work a lot, nobody gets no merit, works hard, but gets little out of it.
Yeah, so I remember what happens is, because you're taking for granted, you also, the quality of the work will decrease. You see all these people getting married, get demotivated, you're putting a lot of hours and you're churning out code. It feels like it's a never ending. And you will also, if you don't take care of this really soon, you will end up losing passion for what you do. You'll end up doing less. You'll end up just like shipping stuff out there, just not caring about it. And your work will get worse. So you got to be very careful. You got to solve this very early on, because if you don't get paid for the work you're doing, or if you don't get the merit, like the people, telling you, hey, you've done a good job, that's very important. You will stop doing your best. You need this to keep going. You need this to keep being passionate about what you're doing. You need to feel like, hey, I'm getting paid for it. Start being mediocre.
Yeah, you kind of disconnect and you kind of half-ass your job. And this is why I think one of the quickest fix, just like competition anxiety for software engineers who, you want to stop being, taken for granted, is to really advocate for yourself and to tell to yourself, hey, you know what? I'm worth it. And I know what I'm worth. Right? It's enough. This is enough. I'm going to ask for what I think I deserve. I'm going to ask for the money. And if this company doesn't give it to me, there will be other companies. And you need to have this mindset at all times, because if not, the problem with this competition anxiety, taken for granted, other stuff that we're going to talk about, is that it messes up your mind and it messes up your confidence. And without confidence, you cannot get anything done. This is a job where it's imperative that you think you can do it, you feel useful, so you can give your best. Okay.
Number 3, the sprint meat grinder.
What does that mean?
And so I guess the best example is to go again back to one of my first jobs, where I used to be working mostly on the front end, and I had another 3 people in my team. They're all front-end developers. And you find yourself in every sprint competing for who's going to deliver the most tickets. And you see people around you maybe delivering 3 tickets, and maybe you delivered 1, or maybe you couldn't even close a single ticket that sprint because it was something more complex. And you feel this pressure of, okay, there's this sprint, I need to deliver tickets, and you take the tickets, and I hope it's a ticket I can deliver on. And then your manager, maybe your boss, they didn't directly compare you with your peers, but you do feel that pressure of, okay, but this person, they closed 3 tickets at that sprint and 5 the sprint before, and I just did 2. And you feel like you're just on a treadmill. You're just running, and spinning your dices, so that hopefully in the next sprint you deliver, you get a ticket you can deliver on, and then you mentally always compare yourself with all the other people in your agile. So it becomes this whole agile that sounds very idealistic and very cool. It actually becomes sort of a prison of a kind.
Yeah, and I can recall actually in the last few weeks, 2 developers that we were coaching. One of them, and this is a real situation, went on a longer holiday. I think it was a 3 weeks paid time off or paid holiday. When they came back, they had like a disciplinary meeting with their manager, who was comparing literally the number of tickets they were delivering. They weren't looking at the scope, the context, what was delivered. No, it was about, this person did 3 tickets and you did 1, and you're going to get in trouble. And this was a respectable company. It wasn't some kind of startup where you say, hey, maybe they are not so professional. They don't understand how things go, right? So this is a reality. And another developer who, spent spent a few weeks with one ticket because she was just getting onboarded on stuff. And then she saw like people, the manager not talking to her that much. And how is that ticket going? What have you been doing? And I think this is the same as competition anxiety, but inside the company. Bogdan, and what would you say? What are some ways to kind of get out of this sprint mid-grinder and this anxiety, this pressure to deliver tickets and to be compared based on like the tickets you delivered, and constantly feel like you have something back on your back, someone on your back watching on how much stuff you're delivering, and every day at work it's just this race against time. The thing is, you do not choose the culture of the company you work for, the team you work for, and if you're a manager or the people around you have this, it's a very competitive environment, not a collaborative one, and people start looking at how many tickets you delivered, then you have no choice but to play the game. Right now, what I want you to do is do not obsess about the number of tickets you're delivering, but do keep an eye on the scoreboard. Okay, so if you, for example, if there is like the people around you that are doing 6-7 tickets and you're stuck in one big ticket, then try to get other small tasks so you can actually compensate for that. Okay, so you need, and this goes back to being taken for granted, competition anxiety. Like, you need to be aware of the game that's being played, and you need to play a little. We don't advise you to be overly political, as always, but we do advise you to keep an eye on the environment around you. Keep an eye on, okay, this is, second week of the sprint. What have I delivered? The demo's coming in 2 days. I need something to show for it. And if I cannot show this ticket, maybe I can pick something small that I can add to my to-do list that I can talk about and kind of compensate. Okay.
On to number 4, the general gatekeeping.
This is very interesting, Bogdan. And what we mean by gatekeeping, there is always, everybody in software, every developer says, we are very collaborative. We like to help each other. We win as a team. But in the end, a lot of people use information hiding. Like, there's a developer who built a certain system. There is no documentation. And that's a way for them to hoard power. Okay, now we know this is not a good career strategy, like hoarding information, because when you are vital to a certain system, you cannot be promoted, right? So you might feel safe because nobody knows about this and I need to fix it. But in the long term, you will always be stuck there and they will promote someone else, right? But this will happen. This is a reality. But when we say general gatekeeping, it's not gatekeeping only from other developers who don't want to onboard you, or there is no documentation and they don't want to sit down with you and have a pair programming because they feel like they're going to lose certain power. That's one thing. But also, salespeople who might be hiding information, product managers who might be hiding information, right? So there is a general gatekeeping that you will feel like there is certain information that's being kind of hidden from you certain times. Bogdan, how can we deal with that?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, people use gatekeeping to become more irreplaceable. So back from this, we have this competition anxiety and people are insecure of their position, and they're like, well, if I build a system and nobody knows how to fix it, only me, then they will call me, then I'll become irreplaceable. There's some career advice, I think, that goes into the lines. Make yourself irreplaceable. But that's, again, scarcity mindset applied to your career. And that will make you feel poorer. It will make you feel worthless in a way, even if you do it, because you'll feel like, hey, the moment they know this, I'm out. Right? They will eventually figure it out anyways. And so the best way is to think of, hey, we're here to solve problems. And if the people around me are going to get good at solving the problem I'm solving, that's good. I can offload that to them if they really want to do it. And I can jump on the next thing, spend more time with product. I can think of new things we can add or better ways to do something. You'll never run out of problems to solve. Like, literally, if we would run out of problems to solve, we'd be on the moon and we solve cancer and everything. It's, we live in paradise. That's not the case. Like, look at the world. There's so many things that are broken. And you got to apply that to, hey, there's always going to be more work. And I'm here to, if I help the people around me solve these problems, I can focus on that. And there's an infinite number of problems you need to solve and infinite numbers of ways you can add value. So you need to go from scarcity to abundance. And once you're there, you'll realize, hey, I just want to get better. Like, I want to get the craft and better as it. Of course, we are individuals. We do compete to some level with everybody else in the sector, but somebody mature understands that in the economy, it's all about adding more value. And they think of the way we do things and what we know, and they always think about the future. Well, let's get better at it. Then just, teach people how to solve ABC, so then I can focus on D, or find out what D is, because maybe we don't know yet, but we can spend time thinking about it.
So in terms of gatekeeping, like, if you feel like someone is gatekeeping information from you, it has something to do with you, that you made them feel a bit threatened, that you are kind of they see you as a threat, they see you as someone that can replace them, they don't want to share that information with you. Or it can be that they do this with everybody and they see that this is their system. Maybe they have been wronged by the company at some point in time and they close themselves up. So sometimes you can do something about it, sometimes you cannot do something about it. And this is why this video is called Realities That You Have to Live With in a Way every day. Even if you try your best, these things won't go away completely. Some things you just got to live with. One very effective way to disarm and prevent gatekeeping in general is to build a relationship with that person, to make them trust, to build that trust a bit, where they actually gonna be willing to share. They don't see you as a competitor. They see that you can work together, and they are willing to give a bit away. The other parts will come from your manager and the culture of the company that has to be aware of the buzz factor, right? And you can influence that. You can say, hey, you can actually in meetings, in team meetings, say, how can we make sure there's no bias factor here? And that's when your manager and other people will start being aware. And that's, again, there will be a team effort to limit, right, information hoarding by certain individuals. And going back to how do you build a relationship? Because people talk about building a relationship. In the end, what a relationship is, in the end, it's certain trust. I trust you, you trust me. How do you generate trust? By having repeated interactions in a consistent way where both parties win, right? That can be just a chat. It can be going for a coffee. It can be having a little pair programming session. And again, this is not easy because nobody has time. And that's why you will have to be proactive. So you'll have to see certain individuals, look around who has the power here, who knows about microservices A, who knows who's making the architecture decisions. And you need to start building a relationship with those people by trying to interact with them, trying to have win-win exchanges with them as soon as possible and as often as possible.
And if someone helps you, you gotta recognize that, make it public. Now, don't overdo it. You want to be genuine. If you overdo it, people will smell it. They'll be like, you're just, you're just sugarcoating everything and being too politically correct. You don't want to be that person because that will actually decrease trust. They'll be like, you're doing it to show something. But when someone helps you, if someone helps you debug something in the deployment pipeline, mention it in the stand-up. Give merit when it's due, and people will see that and will say that you're not taking away their work, you're actually making it visible. So they will, at some conscious level, will want to help you again. So number 5, it's framework slavery.
I think this is pretty straightforward, and it's something at the senior dev we talk about, but it's this constant pressure of not knowing enough, of new frameworks, new libraries, new stuff being released. It used to be new JavaScript frameworks. Now it's like AI coding tools, or it's whatever AI is going to automate next. And I think that generates a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure that, you feel many times as a software engineer. You feel like no matter how much you learn, no matter how much you do, it will never be enough. And again, I think this is because of several reasons. Number one is the false impression that you need to know everything and that you are paid for what you know, not for what you can learn. Okay. And I think you are paid for both. You are paid in part for the things you know, but you're also paid based on your ability to solve problems when they come to you. Right. Number 2, it's again social media. So if you feel like you have a bit of, fear of missing out and shiny object syndrome, and you feel like slave to this framework, learning new things, then maybe you should limit the people you see, and you should limit the number of newsletters you read. And Bart and I do this. I really try to limit the amount of information I'm taking because there's just too much. There's just too much exposure. And actually, a lot of that stuff is just noise. And I think point number 3, it's focus not on frameworks, but on principles. Right? And when you focus on principles, you know that a lot of frameworks are kind of trying to reinvent the wheel, and you can actually see commonalities, from the new stuff coming in, which is just a combination of the old stuff. And you have this tool of mental models, right? And this is what we try to teach actually with Bogdan at the senior dev. We try to teach people fundamentals and mental models that go beyond frameworks. And I think that's the only sustainable way for you to stay relevant, to move towards senior, principal, and beyond as a software engineer. Bogdan, anything you like to add?
Just to go back to a real life example, I remember a couple of years ago, I was interviewing for, I think it was a front-end position, it was React, and 2 of the 5, they asked me 5 interview questions. 2 of them were, I think it was React 18, what are the new features in the release? And then I looked them up after the interview. It tells me 70% of them are useless. Like, you're never going to use that. It's just like, we fixed the edge case, or we added, user optimistic, whatever. Like, who's going to use that? Or if they do use it, it's some underlying framework level that you never interact. So they asked me, that was one question. And the other one was, can you tell me exactly how, and I remember this one really well, Redux Tank works, like the Sagas design of Redux. I'm like, how is that even relevant to the position? Like, unless you really worked with it yesterday, you might not recall it. Right? And I explained them my understanding of it with the mental models, like, hey, it's probably some synchronous actions, and there's like some reducers, and probably that's how it works. And the person was surprised that I actually explained it well without, I didn't work with Sagas, but I kind of knew how it would work. But I'm like, what? Who asked that? Right? So you will feel that pressure. You will feel that framework sleep. It happens every day to the people we work.
Yeah, and I think a good point you made there, it's, don't care. Like, it's going to happen. People are going to ask you stuff that's on the news because that's what people do. You don't have to answer. If you can answer because you know some principles like you mentioned, that's awesome. If not, hey, they will still hire you even if you don't know the shiny latest stuff because they need people who can get things done, right? Awesome. Bogdan, on to point number 5, the bonus. What's the last one? Let's see.
No mentorship.
Yeah, this is a bit of a Easter egg from Bogdan and I because that's what we provide at Senior Dev. We help developers like you through mentorship. We help them fill up their technical gaps, first understand what the technical gaps are, fill them up, put in place a plan with a clear path for them to move forward and have the mentorship they need. Because the truth is, as a software engineer, you will receive little to no mentorship. Companies say that. They like to say, hey, we mentor you. We're going to give you this and that. Then you sign up. There's a lot of work to do. Everybody's busy. The senior is busy. Sometimes there's no senior in your team. Many times that senior person is overworked or they don't know how to mentor. They haven't learned. Maybe they are a great developer, but not a great teacher. So the reality of it is that you're going to spend a lot of time guessing. You're going to spend a lot of time alone on the internet, searching this course, watching this course. And those things are good, but nothing replaces having a good, an experienced senior dev guiding you throughout the way, right? And ChatGPT won't replace that because AI by nature and computers by nature are reactive. ChatGPT can be your assistant, but not your guide. And what people need in education and what developers actually need to make that transition towards a senior level faster, it's a guide, a mentor. And there's not going to be a lot of that, which is the reason why Bogdan and I are here. So if you're interested in Bogdan and I actually mentoring you and helping you reach your full potential as a software engineer, then check out the website, check out how we can help you, check out the technical assessment in the comments. And if we find a fit, we would more than love to get you into our community and help you move to the next level. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, coming back to one of my latest positions, I was a principal engineer, I remember, and people would come to me, especially sales would come to me with so much stuff. They just throw at us everything. Oh, this button broke. Oh, we need to implement this. And I was so burned out. And I remember one of the very seniors, he was already at the VP level, but still hands-on. Like I've never seen a VP in software writing code every day. You don't see those people. That's someone that's really passionate. They've been doing it for 30 years and they write code for a hobby. And, they just sit me down, they saw it, like, Bogdan, what's going? And I would be like, he's like, you're stressed, right? I come to you, right? And I'm throwing all this stuff at you. Like he knew exactly what I was going through. I'm like, yes, I can't even think it anymore. Look at my backlog. And it's all like little kids just throwing stuff at me. Sales people telling me, oh, we should have like blockchain in the application. We can even deploy it well. And he told me, look. Most of this stuff will never be done. Okay. Now you don't want to tell them no, because you're going to be the grumpy developer. Just tell them, yes, let's put it in backlog. And that was amazing. We talked for 5 minutes and it solved, like it made better my last 3 weeks. I would have never imagined there's been a solution for that kind of thing. I thought, yeah, this is it. You're just going to put up with it. And tell me, look, they are very, these people, they get very excited in those meetings. You go in, you smile, you agree without committing, and let them come to you again in the background. You see, it never gets done. If it wasn't important, it is important, we probably get it done, because that's how it works. He's been around for 30 years. He knew that that's what's going to happen.
And that's the power of a mentor, because a lot of knowledge, it's not written, it's not on the internet, it's not on videos. I mean, we try to put as much stuff as out there, but there is a lot of knowledge that's specific to the situation coming from someone who I think I spent thousands of dollars on conferences, courses. Nothing helped me more than a mentor. Okay, and I tried it all, hackathons, any kind of stuff. With that being said, we hope you like this video. We just want to say we've been there. We know these harsh realities, but if you put your best foot forward, you're gonna make it out. On the bright side, this is still an amazing job. We've been doing this for 11 years, Bogdan and I, and we still love it. If you like this video, let us know in the comments, and we will see you folks in the next one.